Hello everyone and welcome to ET-CFO. I am Vartika, your moderator for today. Digital transformation is a term that has been used a lot in the recent past. So much so that we have actually forgotten what it actually means sometimes. This transformation with technology advancement has brought a huge shift in the digital journey of organizations. Digital is empowering CFOs within organization with tools necessary to change, learn, adapt and enhance their skill sets. Thus, decisions on adoption of technology such as big data, mobile technology and artificial intelligence shape up organizations' digital journey. Sitting here and reaching out to you is the digital journey for us. But let us explore in depth with our panel that is here to talk about CFO's digital journey, gearing up for the future. Join me in welcoming our bright and eminent panel, which brings along with them experience, expertise and wisdom. Mohit Kabra, CFO MICROSOFT, Kabir Ahmed, CFO of Microsoft India, Prabeen Dukania, CFO GSTN, Joydeep Datta, Director Finance Sapient. The world of digital is in constant flux. When digital works, it works strongly. So, Kabir, would you like to share your views on this?
Firstly, Vartika, I think we live in an exciting time. We live in the age of Industry 4.0, which is, as the World Economic Forum called as the age of digital transformation. Like any medium, for that matter, to work really effectively, it needs to be faster, better, and hopefully cheaper. And if that's the case, then it obviously, works very strongly, and digital is no exception. A simple data point that I would say is, if you have to look at which are the companies which have actually driven valuations, in the last 5 to 10 years, they have all been either companies who have actually born, in the cloud and in the digital world, like, our friends here in Make My Trip, or companies who have really, disrupted their business model by, adopting digital. Then you can really see that impact, working very well. So I'm a completely strong advocate that digital does, bring in disruption in a very positive way to businesses.
But digital transformation has its own difficulties. Like we talk about digital transformation that organizations are going through. But what are the difficulties, as CFOs? So you are a CFO of a born digital company. So what can be your difficulties?
Yeah, I think it's what's more interesting is to talk about how digital can impact CFOs or the finance function at large. We've generally kind of talked a lot about how going digital can help businesses, but taking it a sharper edge and talking about how it can be leveraged by finance folks is another extension of it. And just to give you some color, when I joined Make My Trip about 7 years back, we were pretty much a large travel agent, right? So pretty much offline in terms of entire bookkeeping, accounting, reporting. Today as we speak, we do over like about 10 million transactions a month, probably anywhere in the range of 10 to 15 million transactions a month, and probably anywhere between 92 to 97% of our accounting is touchless. So it's pretty much automated, it's pretty much digitized. So that's the kind of extent to which probably it can be leveraged, and it's only about knowing it and having a willingness to get there, because then it kind of gets you immense gains in terms of not just manpower cost, but more in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, because anything that gets automated and gets kind of moved touchless, the chances of error are pretty much negligible. So I think that's the real benefit to kind of leverage out of it from a finance function point of view, and then it kind of leaves you with a lot more time and ability to kind of devote yourself more to value add stuff for the business, and have a lot more time devoted to strategy and expansion rather than worry about core basic accounting, because typically for the finance function that is baseline, and unless you have covered your baseline very well, it's very difficult for you to go beyond that and start impacting the larger business.
That is true. That is true. What about you, Mr. Dukania?
Yeah, I agree with what Mohit has said, because for any CFO, the basic core thing is, I'm taking from where Mohit has left, is a basic accounting and all this stuff. And when you move into digital and other things, so that thing will be taken care and everything. And so CFO will be more of a then business partner. He will analyze, he will support into the growth of a business. And then here the digitalization will put an value addition. From your dashboard, you can see and add on real-time decision making, real-time value addition, how the sales is functioning, how the cash flow can be impacted, and how this thing will be done. And taking forward your second question, like how, what are the difficulties in taking the digitalization transformation? So it's mainly because of the organizational and mindset. Because like what Kavir has said, we are into the digital era, it's economy 4.0. But they still in India, if you see that the old kind of economy, the old thought process, they still we are going into the traditional method of accounting, and it's very hard to change the adoption of that. So first is we need to create the awareness into the finance fraternity that it's going to be in the future and all. Recently I was going through one of the World Economic Study and all, saying what is the job prospects in 2025 and all. So they said and the accounting and the traditional general accounting and all these things is gone. So it's a age in 2025, it's all AI, data scientist and all other things. So one has to equip all this skill set. So going forward for the finance profession, I think making equipped and technological savvy is the future. What I can see that.
You said a very valid point here that there is a mindset change which is difficult for, which is challenging for CFOs to, get that digital culture in the organization. We've spoken to so many CFOs and this is one thing that has come out. So you have anything to add to this?
Yes, of course. I mean, I agree with what my previous panelists have said, and because companies they fear getting, to use the word, Uberized. Companies in the traditional space, they fear that very much today. 5 or 10 years ago, they were not so much worried about it, but today, if you look at the valuations of the biggest, the topmost valuations of companies, the large ones, they all have very high technology behind them. So whether you have been in the traditional world, you still need to embrace the latest modern digital technologies.
Why is it important for CFOs to actually know about digital transformation and, upskill themselves? Why is there a need?
We spend typically, a day in the life of a CFO. He or she is grappling with just 3 axes. One, compliance, where the organization says, keep me out of jail.
Yeah.
Another one is, the bookkeeping and operational efficiency, which says just ensure that the house is in order. And then if you have any time left over, come and participate in a business partnering and a strategic conversation. And that's what I think what Mohit was also alluding to, that if you're able to adopt technology in these 2 spaces, which then gives you the comfort that things are in order, and I paid my taxes on time, I filed my returns, all of those things are taken care of. There are no surprises in my audit. And that's my core day job. If I go and talk double entry bookkeeping to my business partners, I'll put them to sleep in a jiffy. Yeah. So I need to be able to do that well in as short a time as possible and devote all my time towards business partnering and strategy. And there, what I really encourage my, my peers in the industry is, have you developed the ability to think beyond the bend? If I see something straight ahead and there is an obstacle, we all know how to manage our business to go through that hump. But if there is something, beyond the bend where we don't have visibility, do we actually have organizational capability to withstand? And should I slow down? Yeah, maybe you shouldn't, and your competitors haven't, and they have overtaken you. Should I really rev up? Maybe there is a wall up there, and I go and hit and I crash my my business. How do you take that call? You have to take that call only by embracing a lot of tools that can help you make better decisions. And that's where I feel that not putting a lot more elbow grease or a lot more throwing more manpower at it is going to solve the problem. You only can get the help from from new tools like AI, like machine learning, all of those to really make you be better at it.
All right.
So to add to that, even with the new tools that are available today, the first 2 which you mentioned about getting taken care of, I think a typical CFO's life today, if he or she embraces the new tools, that would take about 1 or 2 hours time.
Yeah.
The rest of it, you have free time
to
take care of the third one, which is the most important one. Smaller organizations, you see, with cloud coming in, you see, in the past, implementing an ERP solution for a small company was very difficult because of cost. Now, with new technologies coming in, like cloud, for example, you can go to a large technology vendor, even if you're a very small company, and you can use and you can leverage the power of cloud in order to be able to get an ERP solution for yourself, which till about 5 or 10 years ago was not really possible.
Yeah.
So those two get taken care of. And then is the third one, which you mentioned, where you can devote a lot of time.
Yeah.
And here again, there are new technologies to see beyond the bend.
Yeah, and I like what you said, Joydeep, is, and therefore you kind of answered the question Vartika raised on the difficulties of digital transformation, is people actually today lack that awareness and understanding. Say they feel that, oh, if I have to try and, get an SAP done today, it's going to cost me millions of dollars. It doesn't. Yeah, because cloud has actually made it two things. One, it's converted fixed cost to variable, and then it's also then made it pay per use. Yeah, so you don't need to go and put 50 crores, to set up, a data center. You don't need to have a data center yourself. Just go and, and take any of the vendors, on, available and use it, and you then start paying as your business scales up, which therefore means it scales up. That means you get revenue.
Yeah.
So you get revenue,
Yeah.
then you actually can pay for the cost, and therefore you can scale up. You don't have to have upfront, investment, which is a huge thing. And sometimes just CFOs and finance functions need to understand that the market has changed and it's become variable, and therefore it's available for them to scale up according to their organizational needs.
Yeah, and it is also, and to add to that, it's not only the fixed cost, that cost of 50 crores. It's also that big headache about having a large team, a large IT team to help that. Today, you don't need that large IT team.
Okay.
Earlier, even if I had the money, that large IT team was a continuous, investment, and you needed a lot of people to manage that. And that was obviously a headache for an organization, for a small company. Today, that's not required.
In fact, just to taking where the Jaideep has said, like these days, most of the big companies and all, they are shared, using the shared services, where the best use of technology can be, taken care of. Your data, main sales function and main business is taken care of somewhere else apart across the globe, and your accounting and other stuff is taken care in some other parts of the world. So it's all about that technology driven things, and one don't have to invest so much in particular one region into that technology and putting the data and storing the things. So cloud is getting help into that.
And that's very interesting that you mentioned shared services. Shared services. 15 years ago also there were shared services. But the shared services of 15 years ago is very different from the shared services
today.
that you think of today.
So here I just want to ask you one thing. I mean, digital technology is a big part of digital journey. And digital technology, when we say we are talking about big data, we are talking about IoT, mobile technology, cloud technology, artificial intelligence, but, what are you as CFOs doing in your organizations to, as Kabir said, look beyond the bend? So what about you? What are you doing in your organization?
The functions kind of being able to implement digitization is the typical mindset of, protecting the turf. You typically find large accounting organizations or people down the line being very reluctant to adopt it because they believe their jobs will go away, or they'll become redundant. The moment accounting is automated, what are they supposed to do then, right? So I think the trick is to start right from the bottom rather than start right from the top. Showcase to them, how digitization can really help them do a lot of stuff that they spend a lot of time manually on in a Ziffy, and then be able to contribute a lot more. And as people see those roles changing and evolving, and they being able to contribute a lot more towards business partnership or towards value-added decisions, the change comes in willingly. And then you don't really need to bother about fixed costs and variable costs, because that's getting more than taken care of through manpower costs. That just itself is kind of bringing in so much of efficiency. Imagine if you've got to transact millions of account for millions of transactions manually, is going to keep taking you God knows how many man days, right? Whereas here you can be real time, and the power of real time is completely different. Particularly if you're a consumer facing brand, what you leverage is your ability to kind of do analytics around the huge data that you possess. And data is gold today, right? So it's no longer, oil is no longer the gold, it's perhaps data now. So, and that's what you got to leverage. So say for instance today we do practically about maybe 24-25% of all ticketing, air ticketing is done by us.
Yeah.
So probably that is one part of it, that we do air ticketing. But the other part is how to leverage the entire travel trends that you know, because you are probably the largest travel service provider. And that is where you can make a meaningful difference to the consumers by providing them real-time interfaces, notifications, touch points to deliver them products and services which would be meaningful to them right at then and there. And that can only happen when you're kind of doing a lot more on data analytics rather than doing pure sales. And I guess that's where the value add comes in from.
Yeah.
I'll just say, first let me get a little bit provocative, and my prediction is 70% of what we do as finance folks today will become irrelevant and redundant or taken over by machines in few years' time. Yeah. Whether it is 3 or 5, it's anybody's guess. Having said that, let me also address the fear that comes with it. Oh, will I lose my jobs? Let's go back in history. There is not a single appliance, gadget or machine which has created more jobs than computers. Not a television, not a washing machine, not a dishwasher, not a stereo, not a camera. It's been computers. So therefore, I fundamentally believe jobs will exist, but they will not exist in the form and shape they exist today. What digital will actually do is probably create meaning and purpose to our jobs. The mundane routine stuff is taken care of by the machine. Then we bring in, really a value addition and point of view. And a point of view can never be taken over by a machine. And that's what we need business partners for. If somebody is good at converting a worksheet into English and translate that into a board meeting, obviously you're at the risk of being replaced. But if you take that data point, convert that to an insight, and then convert that into action and into a decision, and then, we are talking business. Then our jobs are preserved and the jobs of our teams are preserved because you are actually adding value, to the business. Take the example of what Mohit said. I have now got this data and I know travel trends. So I know that this is how people actually travel at these times of the year. And then taking that data and predicting as to what, the tourism is going to be in those pockets, curating experiences for people who actually come there and then promoting the tourism industry. That was never the brief of MMT when they started. But that is today possible because, and that is probably a new additional revenue, stream that they can, monetize, yet offering absolute value to their consumers. And that's where CFOs need to be spending their time on identifying areas of growth for the business, and it's not just left to the CEOs and the CXOs to do that.
I agree what Kabir has said, because in going forward and these days, most of the CFOs spend around 30-40% of their time in compliances and do the accounting stuff and all, and 60% on the value addition and business partnering. And coming days, this all accounting, compliances and other things is taken care by the tools and all. If you see, particularly in I'm taking my example in GST, earlier it was all manual kind of a things and all these things. So government has taken any step and then everything is digitalized, so one has to do the total, his compliances part is taken care. Earlier it takes maybe 15 days to take the service tax and other compliances. Now it's in a click of a button, your return is uploaded, you can know that what is it all about. So here the CFO can get time and they don't have any sleepless night. So it's a one transformation from the government side on the digitalization. These days, CFO can add and bring value on the table with the real-time analysis of a data. If sales is going down or maybe cost is increasing, so he can chip in with other CXO and better coordination how this can be taken care of, and if the data collection is not coming here and other things. So all these things are on a dashboard and real-time decision can be taken forward.
Yeah, and as Mohit said, data is the oil of the new economy, but I'll add to what Kabir said, where data is the oil of the new economy only provided it is refined. And that is where and that is where analytics comes in. Till a couple of years ago, say till about 4-5 years ago, from a CFO's world, in order to do analytics, there were no self-service analytics tools available. So in order to be able to do analytics, you had business intelligence. So the business intelligence industry was at a very nascent stage, say about 11 or 12 years ago. That's when it started developing. Till about 5 years ago, that those large business, like about a decade ago, we had implemented a business intelligence platform in our organization. from one of the largest global, vendors. Now that required a huge IT setup. By huge, I mean for an organization which is about $2 billion a year, you need an IT team of about 5 or 6 people. And again, it was very difficult to get business intelligence specialists within that. And also, they were pure play IT people. Now, you as a finance person would have difficulty in explaining things to them. Today, business intelligence, self-service business intelligence tools are available, So I have for example, I have a Microsoft Power BI on my desktop. I have it, even have it on my phone. So self-service business intelligence is there. And it's so easy for a CFO or for finance people or anybody else who's not an IT person to use. It's very easy to use.
All right. So it is that digital technology is evolving finance function and is helping organization, move in that direction. But, one question that I want to ask is, so Kabir, please tell me that, what are your views around trusting artificial intelligence, technology around that? And, what are the, and this is to the whole panel, what are the current roadblocks, for you, in implementing AI solutions like machine learning and others?
I think it's a very, very important question. I mean, that's the killer question, Vartika. If organizations don't bring in trust, and we call it within Microsoft runs on trust. Our entire business model is on trust, and if we don't have the trust of our customers, we don't exist. We will not have a reason to exist tomorrow. And that is true for AI as well, because people are getting paranoid. So you have data, that's great. So with data, you can derive insights. How are you using that data? Are you using the data to invade my privacy and my security? Then it's a cause for concern. And therefore, any firm, for that matter, who's actually embracing AI, need to satisfy their customers that they own their own data, and we don't. And in Microsoft, we completely believe that our customers own their own data. We will provide you all the intelligence to actually play around with the data, so you can drive business insight and I drive action. But the data is is yours, and it is not for us to take. It is extremely important that we draw that line. There are also governance mechanisms that Microsoft actually is trying to propose, so that we can, all tech companies come together and self-govern, also tell the governments to use that as a basis. And I will not bore you with all the details, but there are things like, that AI will be used for good, that AI will not replace natural intelligence. And you need to put those guardrails, around it. Otherwise, this can really become, something which we can't control, which is not the intent, in the first place. And core of it is, of course, trust. And we have to build that trust in the very design of the product.
As a CFO, as a community, what are the roadblocks? What are the challenges when you are taking that decision of, adopting an AI solution or any other technology?
So I think more than solutions, as in one of the key challenges clearly is the talent pool available, in this particular space. You pretty much look at, there are probably a few universities across the globe who really specialize on AI and related stuff, and candidates are booked for the next couple of years. So you pretty much can't get talent pool readily out of universities anyway, globally, not just in India. So I guess it's more about empowering the teams within and trying to create that change in mindset, and letting each of the function or each of the core leaders champion their cause in their respective areas. And just to give you an example, say for instance, for businesses which are in the consumer facing side, like for us, the brand is nothing but what is built over trust, right? Or what your experiences that you're providing to the consumer. It's no longer about brand spending, it's about brand service, which builds the brand. Today, if Vartika has a certain way of traveling or certain way of searching for travel services, and Kabir has another way of looking at travel products, artificial intelligence is about saying, if you are coming onto the site and looking for an hotel option, can I show you a very differentiated listing compared to what listing comes and pops up when Kabir goes onto the site? Which means that the interface with the consumer is a lot more personalized. And that's what is artificial intelligence, where you could then replace the traditional travel agent who was supposed to do this one-on-one with his core customer in an individual manner, right? Now then when you want to do this at a large scale with millions and millions of consumers, you probably cannot put in the manpower that is required to build this layer of one-on-one connect, but artificial intelligence helps you overcome this whole barrier. And that's how, these economies or these, companies can leverage digitization and AI in a big way to provide those personalized experiences which otherwise are not possible at scale.
Okay.
So
I can't help but notice one comment from Mohit, which is a very contrast from the previous statement, and I want to really call that out for the cynics who still believe that, we will still lose jobs. We talked about, will it lose jobs, and we are also talking about availability of talent, for the new technology.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is right here. We just need to upskill, ourselves, because there are now newer jobs. Sorry, I don't want to digress, but I thought it was a very good thing that came from Mohit. The availability.
But we're going to come to that point later.
Things and relearn.
Yeah, newer jobs at a completely different skill set. So if I look at the last 30 years that I've been working, in the 1980s, a graduate who passed out of university in India couldn't get a job. Right? In the 90s, when the shared services industry, the boom happened. Anybody who could communicate well could get a job in one of these BPOs. Right? We are seeing it today. That is slowly going down. Jobs for those kind of people, jobs are getting far more difficult. Now, the jobs that are going to be available in the future will need a completely different skill set. So, if you are just a graduate, too bad. It's going to be difficult for you in in the coming 5 or 10 years.
What Joydeep has said, like in earlier days, all these BPO and all call center, these jobs is taken away by, and maybe AI is helping them with the chatbot and other kind of stuff, artificial intelligence kind of a thing, where you can, that customer CRM tools and other things are taken care of.
Right, absolutely.
So, we are going to talk about talent in some time, but, one thing that I really wanted to know from especially Kabir, you and Mr. Dukania, you worked in traditional firms, where, they're just starting to adopt digital or they're going digital. So, in that situation, what are the roadblocks, what can be the challenges of the CFO in that situation?
See, like with my experience in my previous companies and all, which are traditional kind of a thing. So here everybody sees that return of investment if they are moving into new technology, and what like earlier we have discussed that if it is going to cost say 10 millions, 20 millions, so how it's going to benefit, how the efficiency will increase, and whether it will take away the new jobs, or whether we need to put the new talent to handle that tools or to handle that new technology. If we are bringing AI, or if we are bringing say ERP, we are implementing in the traditional houses of business. If you are implementing ERP, so it might cost something, and then you have to make the resources trained into that kind of ERP. So this kind of a weighing is being done in the traditional kind of a firm. But come in these days, that mindset is getting changed, and they also want that going into the digital era and increasing the efficiency.
How can then CFOs, take that leap of, reluctance and that leap of, lack of confidence in technology?
See, firstly, let me, set the context first, because just because CFOs are not ready, the organization is not waiting. Companies like Microsoft are reaching to the CMOs, to the CHROs, to the supply chain officers, to the technical officers, and talking to them about the advantages and benefits of technology. So the organization is already moving, and if I were to give a very accounting answer, every line item on my P&L is either impacted or infused by technology. So if me and my team are not geared for it, then we will be left behind, and our business partners will absolutely move ahead. The only one point I would say with Praveen is this conundrum of have I tackled ROI will exist forever. And my simple advice to people is fail fast. I can't tell you you'll succeed or not, but at least fail fast. Embrace the technology, try and understand how you can actually get value out of it, what can you do to monetize. The paybacks these days of technologies are no longer running in 5 years, 7 years and 10 years. They are in 4 months. That is what, so if you are, like Mohit said, if I'm able to give you a personalized view, I'm capturing you right then and there. I have monetized you immediately. So you can sit and do all worksheet calculations, but then Vartika has gone to some other site and then booked a travel. So therefore, it is for us to actually embrace the technology, adopt it, learn from it, and my simple answer is fail fast.
Mr.
Yeah,
Datta, what do you think
and
about?
even within that, so to give the example that Mohit gave about personalized experiences. So personalized, I mean, we've been doing personalized advertisements for the last 10 years, for example. But there again, technology has been changing.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, you could, companies would do personalized advertisements. But now, for example, let's say you like pizzas, and the pizza company knows that you like pizzas because you've ordered once or twice before that. Now, the pizza company will also know, let's say you've gone into a mall where there is that Pizza Hut or whatever, name any pizza brand where the shop is there. The company will know that you're there in that mall. Then they will send you a targeted SMS message saying, hey, come over, I'll give you a 10% discount.
Yeah.
So that's the way the paradigm is changing. 10 years ago, it was just an advertisement pushed to you because you like pizzas. Today, because again technology has changed, when you're going into a mall, you're getting that message of 10% discount or something to attract you to, in order to make a pizza buying decision.
One question is that despite higher propensity to adopt AI, firms believe they will face shortage of skills. Concerns are around cost solution as well, and unclear returns to unlock the opportunities through AI. So what are your views regarding that?
Look, as I said, there is going to be unclear returns. Yeah. But is that the reason that's going to stop you? Because this is a completely relative game. So if your competitor has found that magic and has unlocked, they just go ahead. And therefore, I will repeat the same thing again. Fail fast. Please adopt. Try and learn from it. You're only going to get better. If you succeed, you will be ahead of the game. If you fail, and if you fail fast, you have learned from it. Now you are better prepared for the next wave of technology or next wave of implementation of the same thing. I mean, I want to move a little bit ahead, because sometimes we need to look at when you are adopting 5th generation technology, you can't sit with 1st generation process. Then you got obviously unclear returns and things don't work because you have not changed yourself for the change in technology. And the one thing which I'm sure Praveen will agree, blockchain, I mean, that's going to fundamentally change what we do in finance. Earlier we used to say there's a contract, verbal or written, between you and me, an agreement to provide goods or services, and then there is documentation that follows with it, a purchase order, a goods receipt note, and an invoice, and I do a 3-way matching, and I do all of those things. Imagine blockchain can eliminate all of that. Yeah.
Agree.
And I go to an extent to say I don't need filing of returns anymore, because for me filing of returns is a secondary confirmation of a transaction that has already been done. If I embed security and guarantee into the transaction at source, which is what blockchain will enable, then he will have comfort saying that, okay, these two individuals have transacted and I have got that completely captured. Nobody can tamper with that particular data, and I know that this is the tax that is arising out of it, and I've captured the tax at source. So suddenly everything will will go away. Now for that, will it give me good ROI or not? I don't know, but as a concept, it's absolutely fascinating. And if organizations, we don't invest, who else will? And the climate today to invest is absolutely fascinating, because we have government talking the language of corporates. Yeah, I mean, which other country have we had this kind of a vast implementation of GST, digitizing it, enabling it through technology and making life absolutely seamless and easy for us? Of course, there are hiccups, because that is the initial phase. I'm saying few years down the line, I mean, when GST is going to be rolling to a very, very different level, altogether, we have a lot of fruits to bear from that.
I agree what Kabir has said. It's totally correct. I think in country like India, where you have different cell tax and all, 25 laws, state acts and all, so clubbing all together and making one simple tax is a humanist job. I mean, tremendous task, and hats off to the government and the willpower of the total trade unity. I mean, so taking forward all these things and making them on one single window It's a very, I mean, technology driven, I mean, making, and it will help people to adopt the technology from the smaller trader and other thing on a MSME level. And a small trader, they will all moving into technology. So it's a one step, you can say, from the government side and from the things that adopt technology. So nowadays all these small traders, they are filing return automatically. So this way they will get a taste of it, and they will embrace that in going forward, which will enhance their business. They are filing it because of the regulatory compliances, but when they will test it, they will find that my regulatory compliances earlier takes 5 days of my time, so now I can do in a day or half a day. So why not adopt this technology into my business enhancement?
One thing is that with technology comes risks. So, and CFOs are no longer just managing financial risks. There are other risks that CFOs has to, take note of. For example, cybersecurity. So, how are you managing cybersecurity in your organizations? What is the cybersecurity strategy as finance leaders? What are the challenges?
So maybe I can just give an example. Earlier, 5 years back, 7 years back, typical cybersecurity for us was, as a consumer-facing brand, which was online and kind of, transacting online, taking payments online, it was more about ensuring credit card risks, right, and frauds. And that was probably it. And we used to kind of, pride ourselves in having a 24/7 team, which used to always be on the ball when it comes to, these kind of risks. I think what's changed over the last few years is it no longer needs to be a large team, because you just can't keep scaling up. In the way the volumes are scaling up or the business is scaling up, you can't scale up the team. And therefore, what digitization or what AI helps you is try and build in a lot of those algorithms in terms of making sure that while the transaction is happening on the fly, AI can help you detect if there is a likelihood of a fraud or a risk over there and flag that off. Now, it might mean you perhaps need just a secondary level check. To the point that Kavi was mentioning, that you can then ask this same small team to provide a value add in terms of decision taking, whether to allow the transaction to go ahead basis certain parameters or not, but leave the core of decision or core of flagging off or addressing the larger risk off to algos and to better digitization. The risk is either ways there, right? Either you kind of go ahead and handle this kind of risk by putting in a lot of technology behind it. The larger risk is of not adopting that technology and what it would cost you. So I guess most of the times it's about evaluating what is the cost of implementing the technology. Perhaps the other way to look at it is what is the cost of not implementing.
That is true.
And where does it kind of take you forward, or where does it cost you?
Yeah, because breaches today directly impact your stock price, and also because of data protection. GDPR that has come, breaches are going to, the fine is so high, it's 20 million euros, right?
4% of your turnover.
Exactly, global turnover. So, what do you have to say about that? What are the concerns?
See, firstly, a lot of, traditional CFOs whom I meet, we still have this old school mentality that of a fortress. I have got this physical access card, I have put a security guard outside, and I have put a 3-lever Godrej lock, and therefore my infrastructure is secure. I mean, I just need a leaky chip in my third-party transporter, for a hacker to actually get into my corpnet, and then create, have like a 15-year-old boy from the comfort of his sofa, hack the credit card details of Tok in the, in the UK, and as you said, the stock price kind of, tumbled. More important than that, the trust of the customers was completely, worn off, and that is the biggest risk today. And I really like what Mohit said. It is the risk of not adopting the technology. To give you a moment, at the risk of going a little technical, what do hackers do? The hackers actually look at all the security updates that most softwares provide. Because we would have looked at some vulnerabilities and then fixed that, and not everybody is on the latest version or the latest technology. And when they are not in the latest version, that's good enough for them to be able to, hack in and then do that. When WannaCry happened, we had Windows 95 installations. We stopped servicing Windows 95 17 years ago. And people are still using, those versions. And my simple, request to them is that, is that what we do with everything else around us? You know, do we not go and, we don't go and buy have our old Siemens and our Nokia phones, you know, huge bulky ones which are risk when they fall at your feet, you know, to carry today. Today we change our phones every 2 years, every 3 years. Yeah. We change our cars, you know, every 3-4 years. But when it comes to software, I mean, because that is intangible, we just, you know, turn a blind eye to it. I mean, we have good reasons to say, oh, legacy systems, my entire enterprise is actually working on it, I can't change. What about, you know, change management? That is a clear invitation for anybody to actually hack into your system, you know, and then do that. Today, you know, 2 things that I would say. One is, of course, have the right, you know, technology which is relevant for you. The second thing that we talk about is when you go into cloud, you create 2 layers, you know, of security. First, you have your own individual firewall, and that will, you know, try and, you know, prevent any hack. And then when you are coming into my cloud also provides you an additional layer of security. So somebody has to hack twice. And even if the person is able to make that hack, say, once, then the best part is if I have a Joydeep and a Praveen and Mohit all on my server, on my cloud, and a hack happens at Mohit's level and we have detected, I go and immediately alert Joydeep and a Praveen and say, hey, this has happened, and then, you know, let's try and do. That's where the unity of all of us coming together, you know, really helps. You have your own data centers in your own, you know, places. What's your job? I mean, your job is collecting taxes and reconciling them. Your job is to ensure that you offer a travel service. Where does it say that your job is to manage data centers? That is my job. Let me do that for you, because I'm an expert at security and I'm an expert, you know, at providing all of those things. I mean, when I say I, you know, Microsoft or any other service provider for that matter, just go to the right person and then pick that up. Then the worry of security can be outsourced to the more competent person who's capable of dealing with it. Sometimes we all think that we have the solution for all the problems. We don't. So let's go and buy it from the experts who can really provide that. That would be my simple advice to most CFOs.
And as I said when we started this conversation, when he said, let's go and buy it from those experts, that whatever we used to buy 5 years ago, that price is coming down. Because of new technology.
So Praveen, what are the what are hygiene factors that you are using in your organization to be sure of your cybersecurity?
See, our platform is, I mean, it's an open access kind of a thing, open to all. Every small taxpayer is using that, and they are using different from the different IPs. So it's a very vulnerable. So we take care of every security measure. There are 3-4 layers of security. So these kind of things as there, and maybe, and at a time like our system is able to take care of around 15 lakh, 20 lakh hit. So those kind of I mean, strength of our total system, and security wise, it's I can say that so far there's nothing wrong.
So Joydeep, what do you think? What are the top 3 or 5 things that CFOs should keep in mind while looking at their cybersecurity?
I think take the help of experts. That's one. Don't ever feel shy of taking help of experts. We worry about cost, but as as Mohit had said, the cost of not taking that help will be far more, can hit you far more than the cost of taking that help. So there's no ROI discussion going on over here. So you have to take help if you need it. And today you have the largest players in the world to give you that help, even if you're a very small operator. A couple of years ago, it was always very difficult for a small company to go to a large player. The large player wouldn't even look at that person. Today, that paradigm is completely changed. You can go to the best even if you're a very small organization, and you can get help at a price that is affordable to you.
Mohit, you're dealing with a lot of data in your organization. What do you have to say regarding this? What cybersecurity, data protection?
Yeah, so I think it's a core area of also of concern. But I guess it's about like Kapil was mentioning, you can always have multiple layers of security, and kind of and the other way to kind of keep doing it is just like you have hackers on the other side, you ought to have ethical hackers inside. That's the best way to kind of defend yourself and stress test your own system in multiple ways. Typically these guys are always thinking 2 steps ahead of what you are thinking, but that's what you got to adopt when you are trying to do your stress testing at your own end. So one is to kind of, perhaps, embrace larger, platforms, say for instance, whether it's a cloud or whatever, because you get that additional layer. But even for those who are kind of, holding it within or working out of data centers, doesn't mean you can't still kind of, handle your own security, right? So I guess it's about putting in the right mindset and leveraging what all is now available, whether in the free domain or in the overall ecosystem or in terms of, even paid technology, and leveraging it to the hilt and choose it in line with your business needs. I don't think one size fits all. So, for somebody who's kind of probably like you mentioned, maybe the FMCG world needs a different level of, data security. But somebody who's on the e-commerce side and transacting, with consumer data, with not just consumer data, but consumer financial data, including cards, including bank accounts and all, the risk is of a different size and order. And therefore, the investment has to be of a different size and order. So maybe one size doesn't fit it all, but evaluate your own requirements and then go in for, whatever suits best.
So, what is the next area for driving real finance transformation?
In our earlier conversation, another thing we said, these are days, in modern days CFOs, there are regulatory and other compliances things, and accounting part should be taken care by the technology. Let the technology do the compliances, let the technology do the accounting part of the things. And the CFO can add real value in business partnering. They can hands-on hands with the CEOs and other CXO for growth strategy and for scaling of a business, for expansion, for moving into other geography and other things. So these kind of a thing, the value addition CFO do in sense of cost reduction, maybe in a growth strategy, how the cost should be minimized with the help of technology, like putting the share services and other things. So these kind of, it's a more of an analytical kind of a thing and business partnering kind of a thing than the traditional way of doing accounting and compliances. So that's a.
So I'll talk about just two things. One is RPA, robotic process automation, and self-service analytics. So if you look at, if I go back to what Kabir had said about those three corners of the three corners of a triangle. So I think if we can get robots, RPA, robotic processes, to take care of two of those, which is controllership and compliance, a CFO is left with a lot of time to take care of the third, which is business partnering. And this is where self-service analytics comes in. So we will have RPAs, robots, taking care of the first two, and self-service analytics taking care of the third one. And this is where self-service analytics, where CFOs really need to upskill themselves in the latest self-service analytics tools, something like say a Microsoft Power BI, for example, which has become very, very popular now. That is why they will have to use those tools in order to be able to help partner with the business and help the businesses go forward.
All right.
I'll just say just two words because that's how it will change. The details are probably what Praveen and Joydeep already mentioned. I think CFOs need to become change catalysts and transformation leaders. What is definitely going to happen is there will be change. What change, what is it driven by, I don't know. Today we're saying AI, we're talking about quantum computing, mixed reality, we're talking about IoT, we're talking about blockchain. There are several terms that this didn't exist in our vocabulary 2 years ago. Maybe 2 years from now we will have very different set of technologies. But what is going to be constant is that every organization is going to go through the change. And CFOs actually need to take the mantle of being the change catalyst. They need to transform the organization because the organization does not transform. When I say transform, take sometimes tough decisions. Decisions like I need to get rid of, I need to like Praveen meant, unlearn, relearn and learn again. If I am not providing that training and getting people there, then maybe I need to get rid of them and hire a very different bunch of people because these can't be trained again. So organizations will be in a constant flux of transformation, and CFOs need to be at the driving seat of that along with the CEO to be able to actually manage that bit. And therefore, if technology, as Joydeep mentioned, can take care of those two other vertices, carve time and give time so that they can spend time on protecting the business of the future, then that's where I think their time should go to.
All right. So some organizations are still not giving finance function more responsibility and not broadening their role in leveraging finance capabilities to create more value. Why do you think is that?
I think that's because the CFOs are spending too much time on those two, on the first two, which is the the controllership and the compliance, and they don't have any time for being change catalysts, as you mentioned, or partnering with the business. They just don't have time, and therefore they've got left behind. It's as simple as that.
So what Jaideep has said, like see in a traditional business houses and like the third triangle, they don't see and they don't foresee that the third triangle in CFO can add value and can drive the value from that. And he has not maybe showcased that kind of a value. So that thought process is going on, that whether the CFO can add value into this or not. And maybe that third triangle is still left over with the other salesperson or maybe CEO and all. So one has to showcase on that third triangle that CFO can add value, CFO can bring something new on the table.
He only thinks that the COO is the only person who can look after that third triangle, which is take strategic decisions for the whole company. But that's never the case.
Probably changing a lot. So difficult to relate to, the question. But I guess it's changing fast. And I think more so because I guess if anybody, if any function or any background that can do the best in terms of leveraging data or kind of building analytical trends, it's probably the finance guys. Numbers, data, and putting it across and making meaning out of numbers comes naturally to them. So if there is one function which could probably leverage it the most, it's probably the finance function. So I guess it's more an opportunity, than a watch out call, and it's just about embracing it, in the right, manner. Like I guess a lot of the teams, and the way to do it perhaps is to infuse your respective teams in the finance function with a lot more tech savvy folks. Today, as we speak, it's difficult to imagine, a few years back. Today, the more hires that we do in the F&A function is of tech folks rather than core accounting folks. Because, core accounting is no longer happening. It's all getting automated, right? I essentially need development engineers and analytical guys to be able to make sure that this 92% moves to 93, 97 in terms of automation and not go down. So I guess you kind of just got to keep infusing the right kind of mindsets within the team to help make the journey a lot more easier and seamless.
We have a lot of more points to talk about. We have a lot more discussions coming out from this panel discussion, but we are approaching the end of our conversation. And with this, I would just want to ask last question from all of you. That while the skills that were expected from finance chief earlier, which is still today, which are regulatory compliance, interpreting, accounting standards, treasury management, these functions have become very basic. They are there, you have to do that. But, what are the new things that now CFOs have to adopt? How do they upskill themselves? How should they gear up for the future? Mr. Datta.
Okay, I think just embrace the latest technologies, keep your eyes open. You should have, as I said, you should have 80% of your time free available in order to make strategic discussions and decisions, make strategic decisions, and help business make strategic decisions.
So again, like I will repeat that: learn, unlearn, and then relearn, and then add value to the business. Because you have said all this traditional kind of a thing is taken care by the technology and all routine functions. So you have to see whether you can do more value addition.
Mohit?
Yeah, I guess, pretty much the same. It's just that, don't look at it very differently. Don't look at it, in terms of adding value to the business being, alien or being, something that you have kind of got to put effort towards. I guess, it needs to start there. Saying, the function exists essentially largely to kind of course correct, guide and take the business in the right direction. And if you start with that, then probably everything else falls in place, because then there's only so much that you can leave yourself for when it comes to core compliance or core accounting and other stuff. So I could start with that mindset, and then probably the journey is a lot more easier.
And the best part of that is that they have all the data to do it. They have all the data of the company.
Look, while I agree with all of them, I just add one, additional perspective is we just need to make everybody self-serve. And today, data or insight it should not be at the hands of few. And I fundamentally believe in democratizing technology. Democratizing technology not just in terms of cost so that small organizations can afford everything, democratizing technology and insights to every part of the organization. I don't want to have a future where somebody calls and says, hey, can you send me the sales report of last month and give a variance analysis. It's at your fingertips. Do it yourself. Consume wherever you are, whatever suits you, and then the time is allocated only for business decision making. If we honestly reflect back, 90% of our time today is spent on collating data, and the 10% that is left over in the meeting is left on arguing whether data is right or wrong. Yeah, that is where today the time is getting spent. And we just need to move away from that 90% collation and tabulation and verification done by the computer, and the 10% again algorithms to actually check the verification and accuracy of the data. So there's one source of truth, and then the conversations that actually happen in boardrooms and team meetings are about leveraging those insights and taking decision making. It is going to be a lot more productive, and all of us will probably not burn out that much when we actually have that high quality discussion. And I will end with what I said in the beginning. Therefore, technology will add meaning to my job and bring purpose to my role. Yeah, that's where I look this going forward.
As you all have stated clearly that, technology, adopting technology and no reluctance towards it, if you, what did you say, fail fast. So, you have to take that leap, you have to take that jump, and, technology is, this digital transformation actually shows the shift that CFO's role has also taken. They're moving towards the strategy side, and this is possible because technology is taking care of all these things. And on that note, thank you so much everyone. It was a pleasure hosting you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.